Your favorite artists. New music discovery. Candid conversations, unfiltered. Loudmouth, little lady, lots of music history. Broadcasting live from New Jersey, it's the Car Stereo Podcast with Terrie Carr.
New music discoveries on the Car Stereo Podcast. I am with a new friend, Jake Diab from Autumn Kings, one of my favorite new bands, too. And here's why you're one of my favorite new bands. Because I can't put you anywhere. You're a rock band. And people say, oh, these guys are do this, or they sound like this meets that. And I'm like, no. You're a rock band. And what rock bands of 2025 and beyond are doing in just developing sounds that don't have to be boxed in. So congratulations on that great accomplishment, my friend.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And it's awesome you recognize that's a big part of what we try to do with our sound.
Good. Then I don't feel like an idiot. Good.
No,
Good.
Not even a little bit.
Good. So where do we start?
So
you want
much.
to start with the single? There's so much. First of all, let's start and rewind. Because people say like, oh, Autumn Kings, these guys are making a lot of noise and brand new band. No, you guys have done it organically.
Yeah.
With good songs, hard work, passion.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from a lot of artists, and this is so inspiring to me, because when I came up in the music business in the radio world, there was not DIY.
Right.
You had to do what your record label said, what your manager told you. If you had to have a guest on this song, a lot of the females have gone through this where it's just been like a shit show.
Yeah.
But you guys put in the hard work, got this fantastic organic following.
Yeah.
And I think every step has been a progression and an evolution in what you're doing. Talk to me a little bit about the last 10 years.
Yeah. The last 10 years have been incredible. So we were an independent band until 2024. So it comes with, of course, lots of pros and what at least at the time seemed like lots of cons. The main cons being that you weren't roped into that industry infrastructure. And the reality is, as much as hip hop has been able to successfully branch out and have successful independent acts, in rock, it still is to a pretty large degree, especially when we started off in 2015, 2016, gate kept by managers and agents and radio. So it's very tough. There were a lot of roadblocks for us to get through in the beginning. And what's funny is when you start off as a band, it seems like everybody is more mean or everybody's more out to get you, whether it's sound techs or people in the business. They don't have time for you. And it was never personal, but it was very hard not to take it personal at the time because we had so many rejections those first couple years. And to keep your head down and grind and continue to hone your craft, continue to reach out to venues yourself to give you a chance, it felt very, what would you say, demotivating for a good period of time. But we always had faith that the music would stand out and the live show would stand out. So we kept doing it. But it started off as Joe and I sitting there writing songs in LaSalle, Ontario, just a stone's throw away from Detroit in America, writing and playing for anybody who would give us a chance. We would do a bunch of acoustic gigs 2 to 3 days a week and play 4 hours worth of cover music.
Honing your craft. That's a great way to do it. Breaking things down. Always more difficult. Your vocals are different. Your guitars are different. No hiding behind that. Excellent.
There's no hiding
Yeah.
behind it. Exactly. And a big part of it too was not only were we honing our craft, but cover gigs actually paid money, whereas original gigs in the beginning tend not to. So we would take all the money we saved from the cover gigs and invested it in proper studio recording. Because I'd played in a couple bands in high school that were not as serious. The other members were not. I was always in it for the long haul, but we didn't invest in proper production. So that's a lesson I learned when I was 16 or 17 is you're better off pay that extra markup, pay that extra fee for proper production and proper mix. So we did that for years and years and years, learned how to market ourselves online, and just did that for 8 years before we found our managers, 9 years before we found our record label. And it's one thing to be doing it before the 2020 COVID pandemic. I was always of the mentality that if you put in hard enough work, you're gonna eventually see the results. And so up until I was about 22 or 23, I felt invincible. I didn't know what negative emotion was, and there was nothing that the band couldn't do if we just put our minds to it. And then when 2020 happened, this is 5 years into being the band, all of the momentum was suddenly taken away from us. And it was the first time in our life that there were external factors outside of our control, outside of our own agency of putting in the work that were stopping us. And the competitive instincts in me, there was a lot of friction. I didn't like that. And so it was very hard for us to survive those next couple years, 2020 to 2022. And that's the time where a lot of my friends in music left. A lot of bands stopped what they were doing.
You
Because
guys never, you and Joe are always connected. You guys
yeah,
started the band. You know, I think the idea came up. I remember reading a while back in like a grocery store or something when you guys were in the
yeah,
grocery store, right?
totally.
And yeah, that is such a great point too. How do you keep a band, a new band that doesn't have a whole lot to show for all the hard work that you've put in up until this point? How do you keep that together during times of,
Uh,
those were not times of trouble. Those were
yeah,
times of what is going
chaos.
on? I mean, it was
Yeah,
just beyond times of trouble. Yeah.
beyond times of trouble. And in my mind, when I was 18, I'm like, by the time I'm 27, I'm going to be at this point in my career because this person that I looked up to as a musician was at this point when he was 25. So I should be here by 27. COVID hits, all of that gets thrown out the window. Identity crisis. There definitely was internal friction within the band, not between Joe and I, but just the overall band as a whole, because it's hard because people are hitting their mid 20s. And as you know, that's usually the time for most people when the pressures of life start really feeling heavy. And you got a girlfriend who wants to get married, and you've got a house that you're renting or got a mortgage on,
Or
and your
people tell you
parents,
you're too old to do this.
people tell you
You're
you're too old to do
aging
this.
out,
Right,
which is like such total bullshit. That's not true at all. You could be
right.
19 or you can be 36. I mean,
Yeah,
music is music, songs hit. That's
100%.
so
Count
ridiculous. Yeah.
countless examples of
Yep.
people in rock and pop who've
Of
made it into
course.
their late 30s and 40s, of course. And so what we did for Joe and I mean, thankfully Joe was one of the easiest going guys. So Joe can roll with any of the punches. I'm much more focused on a certain thing and I want it to go this way. I can be flexible too, but Joe is really flexible and easygoing. For us, it was just stubbornness and will to not quit. There's no intellect involved in staying together during that time because there was every reason not to. The question we would always ask is, what's our alternative? To go get
Right.
a normal job? Hell no, we don't want to do that. And we stuck it out for long enough, and eventually the people that needed to be on our team came around. And I'll just add one more thing. I think the biggest lesson I learned is that the first couple years when we did this, it's such a hustle that some people, especially in the music business who are comfortable in their position of power or prestige, they actually don't like the hustle. They want you to hustle and get a viral TikTok hit, but they don't like when you ask questions and you ask, not everybody, but there's a good contingent of people in the music business who don't like that. And so what we did is because we want to do the right thing, we would internalize those things as a character flaw. And it took a long time until we found agents and label who said, no, those very things that you thought were a character flaw, we actually see as an advantage. Can we swear on the show or no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's fucking win, right? This is what the
Absolutely.
guys are
Yep.
saying. And then all of a sudden you get to I was 26, 27, and I'm like, all these things I thought were character flaws were actually advantages. It was just an incompatibility with the people before. So
Timing. Timing,
timing.
timing is everything. And you're not the first artist in the last 2 weeks that I've spoken to talk to me about having a great team of people around you. I spoke to somebody recently who said, I got my producer. I didn't
Yeah,
care who people wanted me to use or who people wanted me to be. I called my
yeah,
producer and said, I'm an indie band and
yeah.
I want to hire you. And this producer had worked with big artists.
Hmm.
And he said, yeah, sure. I've got some time. You want to hire? And she said, why did you work with me? And he said, because you hit me up like a business person. You meant
Yeah.
business. And it's so important to have a great team of believers around you. It's so funny because I was going to ask you at the end, what three things would you tell an artist? Because I want to talk about the success that you guys have recently had, but you've already answered all of those three things. So before we talk about music and you're breaking through and stuff, so you mentioned Ontario. It's funny because I have my mug here filled with no, not vodka, lemonade, but
Uh-huh.
I've got my guys from Theory of a Dead Man sent me this mug during COVID time. So I was like, oh, this is very Canadian today. I didn't even think of it, but Tyler and Dave sent me
Love it.
their Tyler and Dave mug. Um, so talk to me about, you're from an area though where you're also very states.
Yeah, totally.
So talk to me about the mix of music because things are very different for people growing up in
Yeah.
Canada with their music. And
Yeah.
then, but you've had kind of that mix of both. So talk
Yeah.
to me a little bit about growing up in this little tiny little place and
Yeah.
what inspired you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very fascinating neck of the woods. I actually show my American friends and American fans all the time, even after shows. I'll pull up my Google Maps and say, look at where we're from in Canada. It is the most southern part of this enormous country, and it shares a border with Detroit. And we're one of the rare places, even if you look at Vancouver and Washington, West Coast, they're still a 2 hour drive from each other. We're one of these rare places where both countries you can sort of commute back and forth 20 times in a day if you want
Do you have
to.
are you dual citizen?
I am, fortunately. Yeah. It's
Perfect.
great. It's
That's
amazing.
awesome. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. And we got all of the American radio stations growing up. So 101 The Riff and 89X were the two big rock stations around
Sure.
here that really curated and influenced our musical taste. When, of course, we were exposed to Canadian bands just by virtue of being Canadian residents and citizens that a lot of our Americans aren't as familiar with. Bands like Billy Talent or the Arkells or the Trues or Tragically Hip.
And so talented.
So
These are all
talented.
bands that are so freaking talented. Oh my, it doesn't
Yeah.
get any better than the Tragically Hip. I mean,
Yeah.
just amazing.
Amazing,
Amazing
amazing
band,
music.
amazing musicians, and all the bands that you've mentioned are just amazing musicians. That's
Yeah.
so perfect. And then you've got that Detroit sensibility of that hard,
Hard rock. Yeah.
riffy rock and roll,
Yeah.
which now the boxes are checking for me as to
Yeah.
the sound of Autumn Kings because I can really hear the influences.
It's a very musically rich place, and I always tell people within 4 hours of any direction, 4 hours west, you have Chicago, which is Disturbed, Rise Against, Fall Out Boy, Pumpkins, Alkaline Trio, Tom Morello's from Illinois, on and on and on. North, you've got Toronto, which is Billy Talent, 3 Days Grace, Rush, 1,000 Foot Crutch. There's just all over the place. Cincinnati, I could go on, Black Keys, you've got in Ohio. So we really were able to take in things we didn't have to be in LA, didn't have to be in New York, didn't have to be in
No.
Nashville. This is the Midwest. And even if you want to call Toronto up to Toronto, part of the Midwest, very musically rich. So we're lucky we got that eclectic
You got
mix
the
of
flavor.
music. Got
You
the
got the
flavor.
flavor. You
We
got the
should.
flavor. Okay, so you mentioned a lot of these bands, 3 Days Grace, and who I've always called radio bands.
Yeah.
So now you guys are becoming a radio band. And you
Yeah.
mentioned, radio stations that you listened to growing up. So you put out Sleep When I'm Dead, and all of a sudden, boom, shakalaka, the world starts to change
Yeah.
for you guys. It just took off. The streams were great, added to tons of stations. You guys had amazing success on
Yeah.
satellite.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, where you're turning on the radio, turning on your favorite stations, visiting your favorite stations? I know that you guys did radio runs, and
Yeah.
as a radio band, you went in and played acoustic and did all the things that you have done. And it was a whole different kind of thing that opened up for you in 2024.
Yeah, it really hits like when it rains, it pours. It definitely. That was 9 years into being a band. And you never know when a breakthrough like that's going to happen. As soon as the song came out, we got word that Octane, which is arguably the most influential radio station in all of North America, was adding us to hyper rotation, 50 plays a week. That's
Hyper rotation for them, that's a lot. That's more than
oh,
traditional radio airplay, which sometimes could be 25 or,
hmm.
between 25 and 30. That would be like a radio hyper rotation.
Yeah.
That's a lot of plays on Octane.
It was a level of belief that the actions basically spoke and said, we want to break this band. We want to make this band blow up. And I have to admit something that is pretty embarrassing. When our management first told us we were getting added to Octane on hyper rotation, the I'm right on the cutoff of millennial and Gen Z. I'm 1996.
Okay.
The part of me didn't even realize the importance of that radio station because I was so used to Spotify and internet discovery. So when they told us that, I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, sure. And then Jason, our manager, he's like, no, you don't understand. This is huge. I'm like, oh shit. Okay, okay, cool. And then we realized right away, record labels are interested. Radio tours are happening, like you said. Even now, we're noticing. We just hopped off tour a couple days ago with Hollywood Undead and Hinder. Every single show, there are at least dozens of people, I would say, that came from finding us on Octane, which is
Fabulous.
insane.
Fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was one big part. Now, and what's crazy is it feels like an overnight success, but to even get a song to the quality of Sleep When I'm Dead, that took years of experimenting musically to find the right sound that all fits the puzzle perfectly. And what's interesting about radio bands like Three Days Grace and now Autumn Kings, I won't speak for 3 Days Grace, but if I'm going to take a wild guess, they're not trying to write songs for the radio. Like when we wrote Sleep When I'm Dead, there was not 1% thought in my mind that thought, okay, let's just tweak this part of the song this way so that some radio program director in Nebraska will now add it to the station. There's no thought like that. I don't think you can mix creativity and commerce while you're creating. It's
Yeah.
one thing to make the music first, and then when the music is done, then you can switch to marketing brain or entrepreneurial brain. But to do marketing and entrepreneurial brain while you're creating, I think is a huge recipe for disaster. And I think that's a big part of why we've been successful is because we're not trying to write for the radio. If it happens to fit, great. If it doesn't, we don't care. We've got the internet, we've got the live show, so it's all good. But yes, Sleep When I'm Dead was definitely a massive turning point for us in every way.
This is your sound now, and your sound is just when I think you're going to go here, then I listen to something else and you guys go here,
Yeah.
which is pretty exciting. I mean, look, I think as much success as you had with Sleep When I'm Dead, Hellbound, that's a whole new level and a little bit of a different vibe for you guys. Empowering, anthemic, and I think the thing that I love the most about it, whenever I'm feeling kind of, I don't want to tell who to play it because she'll play it. It was probably the last thing I listened to on my Alexa as well, but it's a fun song.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Where did fun go? I'm so
Yes.
happy we're bringing like fun back. These are
Yes.
songs that are custom made for live performance. And
Yeah.
I could picture what it would be like to see the band live when
Yeah.
I hear a song. So talk to me about Hellbound, which
Oh,
is like,
that's
when I heard it, I was like, man, it like hit me in the face. Like, what a great song that is.
Well, thank you. You know what? You're the first person that I've ever spoken with in an interview that said what happened to fun. And that's something Joe and I talk about all the time, especially in rock. One of the big reasons I was a massive Nickelback fan in the late 2000s, early 2010s is they're one of the only hard rock bands or bands you'd hear on hard rock radio that didn't bask in their depression endlessly or bask in their anxiety endlessly. And I get that there's a time and place for that. And we have our fair share of maybe 10 to 15% of our catalog being songs like Riptide that lean into the darker side of the human experience. And even with Hellbound, if you just read the lyrics, it starts off dark and serious because we're not disingenuous or blind to the hard reality of life that people experience, many people experience. The difference is we don't like people to stay victims and stay there. And so we try to always instill an empowering and redemption infused message with our lyrics. But musically with Hellbound, we always talk about this dichotomy between the music and the lyrics. The music, if you just heard the Hellbound music, it sounds fun. It's a four on the floor stomp. Even girls who don't like rock music would dance to the song. It's that kind of thing. But then you're also able to satiate that heavy rock, American man with the
The
big
anthem,
muscles and the
baby.
Harley. It's
Fists
the
in
anthem.
fists in the air,
Yes.
drink in the air when people are checking you out at a show. And again,
Yes.
custom made for live performance. So whether you guys are playing in a smaller venue or whether you guys are playing one of these big giant shows, and you guys have had a great roster of people that you've gone out on tour with. I think you can kind of fit. I think you can kind of fit anywhere. You can fit on a metal
Yeah.
show. You can fit on I saw you guys toured with Mute Math. I love Mute Math. They're such
Yeah.
an underrated band, but that's a whole different sound of music. But you guys can fit there as well, and
Yeah.
that's a gift in
Yeah.
touring when you can kind of be on anybody's bill,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel like
What are
this
they doing here?
far apart. Like, why is this artist on this bill? So hats
Yeah.
off to you guys for being able to do that because I think that's just going to
Yeah.
be a bigger, more giant thing. And you guys were in Europe and very well received recently. What was it like to be there? And what did you feel like going into these shows? Did you feel like, people aren't going to know who we are? This is all like fans that are going to be foreign to us, no
Yeah.
pun intended. What was that like?
Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, Europe was insane. And I'll talk about that. And just one thing you got me pumped up with what you were just saying, which is I just realized this. I think part of the reason we've been able to be so diverse musically is because we weren't signed to a label and getting pressure to fit into a mold.
Yes, no
So-
boxes.
No boxes. So it was almost a blessing in disguise that we could take all these chances for many years. And then by the time we signed, the expectation going in is that we are a diverse band. So there were no surprises or pressure to change that. So that's first. And secondly, as far as Europe goes, like you said, we had no idea what to expect for our first time in Europe. There could have been nobody there. There could have been a million people there or something in between. And we're very pleased to say when we went there, there was a level of love for the music that we had never seen before in any country or city that we'd played. And I chalk it up to a couple of reasons. I think the first is simply an American band coming to Europe creates this aura and mystique, and they really appreciate the fact that a band from the other part of the world came over here to Poland, right? When we went to Warsaw, we had people in Poland come from all over the country, from the remote towns and the farms. People came from Ukraine, people came from Belarus. I was like, what the fuck? That's crazy.
That's
There,
amazing.
whereas here
Wow.
you have so much entertainment, not only in music, but sports and
We
anything
take it
else
for
that you
granted.
take it for
Don't we
granted.
just take everything for granted? We really, really
Yeah.
do. That had to feel just not only great, it had to feel just different. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes in life and in what we do, it's nice to have those moments where things just feel different because it
Yeah.
almost hits the reset button for you, you know?
Man, I think one of the most unique, different things about Europe in particular is after the shows, we always try to meet all the fans. Any chance we can, we try to hang out with them, take pictures, sign their merch. And out of force of habit from touring in Canada and the US, I would say, do you guys want to take a selfie? Yeah, yeah, sure, let's take a selfie. I would ask people in Germany, do you want to take a selfie? No, no, that's okay. I just want to talk to you and tell you how Go for Gold changed my life. And I was like, oh,
They didn't want to be intrusive. They just wanted to give you a piece. They didn't want you to have to give them a piece of you. They wanted to give you a piece of
yeah.
them.
It's a very well said way. Yeah, yeah,
Amazing. Oh my
totally.
gosh. That
And the
actually just gave me like a little chill because usually people are just like, can we take a selfie? Can we take a selfie? Wow,
right.
that's pretty amazing. Mm.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing.
what I love too is you guys are not afraid to go out and tour and do some shows with the ladies. Let's hear it for the ladies.
Lots of little ladies, absolutely.
And the
So many
women in
talented.
music are making lots of noise. Women in metal are making lots of noise. They're taking ownership of their careers. I've spoken to a couple of cool metal ladies recently, and it's been so inspiring for me to see these young girls just not taking any shit, any of the shit that I took when I was coming up in radio, where I was like, okay, I won't do that. Okay, you only have a night slot for me. Okay, these women are like, get out of my way. I'm plowing forward. So thank you for doing that, for opening up opening slots to be able to take some
Yeah, yeah.
cool female artists out on the road. How has it been, discovering some of these cool bands?
Oh, it's been awesome. There are one of the things I learned is many years into doing this. I was just telling the guys this last week. The bigger you get and the higher you move up in music, I actually find the nicer and cooler people are, in addition to being uber talented. We used to have this stigma when we started off, but the sound techs were always crusty, and promoters didn't treat the band with just basic decency. And I don't take it personally. It's a competitive world. People don't have time. And that's the precedent that's been around for so long.
Which
It's
sucks.
changed.
Which sucks
It,
that no one had time for anyone. Like that's the worst
yes.
part. But if you're seeing this change, then I'm feeling
Yes.
this too.
I'm seeing it change. I'm seeing it change everywhere. And now that things are more digital too, even promoters with how they pay the bands, it's gotten a lot less sketchy. And the bigger you get too, like we were with Hinder and Hollywood Undead and Non-Point, all of these bands were the coolest bands. We go into every tour expecting that they're going to be jerks, so just stay out of the way and be invisible. To whoever it is, we don't know anything about them. That's our baseline going into it. And we're pleasantly surprised every time with how cool people are. And I think your talent correlates with your professionalism off stage often, because to get to that point where you get to tour that many times, you have to be professional. So you have to be a pro off stage in order to get the opportunity to refine and hone your craft and do this for a
Yep.
long time.
Yep.
So they sort of work together. So there are an abundance of amazing bands that we've played with the
Yeah.
last year or 2 years. I couldn't even count them all.
I love the Hinder guys. They're so fun. They're
Yeah,
like such a party band, and I've done events and things with them, and they're just really fun guys to hang out with.
they are
Yeah,
down to
really,
earth.
really down to earth and really, really super cool. So we've talked about a lot of sort of fearless elements with how Autumn Kings have had this great organic, incredible journey. Are you a hockey fan, by the way? Because I know.
Oh, I used to be a massive hockey fan. And then when I picked up the guitar, it shifted. I was a huge, huge Red Wings fan. Like, would get up at 5 in the morning before school and catch up on all the stats and the highlights.
All my Canadian folks are huge hockey. I don't know why it just came to my head.
Oh, yeah.
Every time the Theory guys are here, I see them
Yeah.
social media. They're always at some kind of New York. They're always at a Rangers game or Devils game, or you know. So everybody's a hockey fan. The
Huge.
Detroit thing too. Lee from Pop Evil's always at the Prudential Center checking out the Devils. He's a Devils fan. So yeah,
Oh yeah, it's huge. Theory of a Dead Man's that way. I'm pretty sure we were just at Will Rock. We were at Will Rock in Chicago, and I saw from Hinder, speaking of Hinder, they had a signed jersey right on there. So I guess they're hockey guys too.
Yeah.
Hockey in Canada is like football in America or
No doubt.
soccer in Europe. It's a part of our DNA. But I quit that when I was 15 when I discovered that I could have a career in music. And I have been terrible at following the hockey statistics for the last 10 years. So I leave it to my other buddies that are not in music to kind of fill me in and inform me.
The guitar has become your mistress now. It's not hockey. The guitar has become the mistress. So you guys are leaving to go back out on the road. We talked a little earlier before we got rolling here. And I said, you guys are going everywhere, places I cannot even pronounce. What is the anticipation like when, it's a whole new venture? Because that's a little different than, touring the States or doing some radio festivals or shows. This is a whole different wheelhouse. So how are you feeling?
It's the dream. It's totally the dream to get on a plane and travel over an ocean to get somewhere else to play rock and roll for thousands of people when it all is said and done at the end of the tour. It's the dream. This is exactly what we dreamt of doing when we were 15 and 18 years old. And what's awesome is we're doing it with people we love. We're very big on creating a culture in our band where everybody vibes and everybody's cool and we're all out on the same mission together and almost taking a perverted pleasure in things sucking, like jet lag, terrible sleep, cold food. Like, it's fun. We make it fun. And this is something that we always remind ourselves of. And I like to say to people like you in interviews is, speaking of where is the fun, right? A lot of bands, not only in the music, but they almost position themselves as martyrs. I'm going out on tour and I'm actually sacrificing. This is so hard to do, but I'm self-sacrificing and it's such a tough life. We don't look at it that way. We take a very different approach. We're lucky to be here. It's our choice if we want to be here. If we feel burnt out, yes, of course, speak out, talk to people, make sure you get the help that you need. And at the same time, don't make yourself a victim because there are 1,000 people playing in pubs right now all over America that would kill to be tired on a plane going to 13 different countries like we did this year. It's the best thing. Being rock and roll people is the best thing, especially getting to go to new places. Like, we haven't been to the UK yet, and people have been messaging us for so long online. We can't wait to see you guys play London, Leeds, Manchester. And so all I can say in one word, 2 words, the dream.
I love that. And living in the moment. It's so nice to see you guys be able to appreciate, the great with, the food is cold, but who cares? We're out on tour. Living in the moment is so important. And that's what, unfortunately, the return on attention with cell phones and everything has taken away from us. So living in the moment is so, so important. Love it. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see you guys when you guys are back in the States. Jake from Autumn Kings, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. It's been so great just to have a super fun rock and roll chat with a great band that is finally getting what you deserve. I'm so proud of your success. Rock and roll needs bands like Autumn Kings. And congratulations on some amazing singles too. Best of luck with Hellbound. It is a banger, my friend.
Well, thank you.
We'll see you out on the road.
Yeah, sounds great. I appreciate it. This was awesome, Terry. Thanks for having me.
Don't forget to like this podcast and subscribe to the Car Stereo page on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Rob Moorhead. TC and I will see you next time.